Good morning to everyone. I'm Eric Dixman Baho. Our report is all about Corazon Aquino's speech before the United Congress on September 18, 1986. So I will start the introduction before our main topic. Who is Cory Aquino? Maria Corazon Cuangco Aquino, o mas kilala bilang Cory Aquino. She is our former president from 1986 to 1992. And a wife of our former Senator Benigno Simeon Aquino Jr. Benigno Aquino was assassinated on August 21, 1983 on tarmac of Manila International Airport o mas kilala ngayon bilang Ninoy Aquino International Airport in his honor. He is outspoken oppositionist to our former President Ferdinand Marcos. Ferdinand Emmanuel Edralin Marcos Sr., our former president turned dictator from 1965 to 1986. So bago na-assassinate si Benigno Aquino, may tatlong kutob na namatay si Aquino, may tatlong kutob si Cory Aquino na namatay si Benigno Aquino. Una is yung sa food poisoning. Nilason siya pero nakaligtas siya. Pangalawa is yung kinulong siya ng matagal sa rehas. At pangatlo yung na-assassinate na siya, tuluyang namatay. So yung ibang mga information, malalaman niyo sa next reporters. Yun lang po, salamat.
Her speech was about freedom of the Filipino people from the Marcos regime. She didn't stop until there is peace and unity. She also made sure to lower the debts of the government that she inherited from the past leadership with the help of the foreign allies. She also committed to reduce the presence of communists in the country.
Cory Aquino's speech before the joint session of U.S. Congress. In burying Ninoy, a whole nation honored him. By that brave and selfless act of giving honor to a nation in shame recovered its own. A country that had lost faith in its future found it a faithless and brazen act of murder. For the nation, Ninoy became the pleasing sacrifice that answered their prayers for freedom. For Cory and her children, Ninoy was a loving husband and father. His loss, 3 times in their lives, was always a deep and painful one. Her husband detained along with thousands of others, senators, publishers, and anyone who had spoken up for the democracy its end drew near. But for Ninoy, a long and cruel ordeal was reserved. The dictator already knew that Ninoy was not a body merely to be imprisoned, but a spirit he must break. For even as the dictatorship demolished, one by one, the institutions of democracy and the press, the Congress, the independence of the judiciary, the protection of the Bill of Rights, the government sought to break him by indignities and terror. They locked him up in a tiny, nearly airless cell in a military camp in the north. They stripped him naked and held the threat of sudden midnight execution over his head. Ninoy held up manfully under all of it.
Maria Corazon Coangco Aquino was born on January 25, 1933 and died August 1, 2009. Popularly known as Cory Aquino, was a Filipino politician who served as the 11th President of the Philippines, becoming the first woman to hold that office. Corazon Aquino was the most prominent figure of the 1986 People Power Revolution, which ended the 20-year rule of President Ferdinand Marcos. So, Corazon Aquino became president with the help of People Power Revolution. September 18, 1986, a speech of President Corazon Aquino during the joint session of the U.S. Congress. Corazon Aquino talks about his husband and agreed to bury him. She also mentioned the contributions of his husband Ninoy Aquino and his sacrifices that became their answered prayers for freedom. Corazon Aquino says, 14 years ago, this month was the first time we lost him. A president turned dictator and traitor to his oath, suspended the Constitution, and shut down the Congress that was much like this one before which I am honored to speak. He detained my husband along with thousands of others, senators, publishers, and anyone who had spoken up for the democracy, and its end drew near. But for Ninoy, a long and cruel ordeal was reserved. The dictator already knew that Ninoy was not a body merely to be imprisoned, but the spirit he must break. For even as the dictatorship demolished one by one the institutions of democracy, the press, the Congress, the independence of the judiciary, the protection of the Bill of Rights, Ninoy kept their spirit alive in himself. Yun nga yung time na nakulong nga si Ninoy Aquino, kasama yung ibang meron ding katungkulan, katulad nung nasabing senador, sa kongreso, sa press. She added, "You saw a nation armed with courage and integrity, stand fast by democracy against threats and corruption. You saw women poll watchers break out in tears as armed goons crushed the polling places to steal the ballots, but just the same, they tied themselves to the ballot boxes. You saw a people so committed to their ways of democracy that they were prepared to give their lives for its pale imitation. At the end of the day, before another wave of fraud could distort the results, I announced the people's victory." So, yung time na yon, dahil sa kagustuhan ng mga Pilipino dati na ma-end na yung dictatorship, di ba parang may kaguluhan na kesyo kukunin nila yung balota, papalitan ng iba. Pero, kahit buhay nila ang kapalit, hindi nila yun hinayaang mangyari. She also added, "We have swept away absolute power by a limited revolution that respected the life and freedom of every Filipino. Now, we are restoring full constitutional government. Again, we restored democracy by the ways of constitutional structures of our new democracy under a constitution that already gives full respect to the Bill of Rights." Cory Aquino's presidency swept away the absolute power by a limited revolution that respected the life and freedom of every Filipino. She changed dictatorship into democracy. At yun na nga, nung naging president si Corazon Aquino, syempre natapos na yung dictatorship ni Ferdinand Marcos.
Magandang araw po. So ako po yung last member po sa aming grupo. So, continuation of Corazon Aquino's speech before the United Congress. I am Victoria Mondero Perez. So, continuation. So, Cory Aquino launched an appeal for help and asked for financial aids towards rebuilding the Philippine economy. She also mentioned in her speech that she met with former American President Ronald Reagan the day before her speech and talked about cooperation and strengthening of the friendship between the two countries, that she will want to forge a stronger bonds with the United States of America, in spite of the latter's alliance with the dictator. So, brief muna tayo kay former President American Ronald Reagan. So, Ronald Reagan, originally an American actor and politician, became the 40th President of the United States, serving from 1981 to 1989. His term saw a restoration of prosperity at home or the property at home with the goal of achieving and peace through strength. So, nung humingi naman po nag-appeal po ng tulong si former President Cory Aquino in financial aid and security in our country, bigyan naman po tayo ng assurance ni former President American Ronald Reagan. So, this is the speech of former President in America, Ronald Reagan. President Aquino and I discussed her strenuous efforts to bolster the democratic institutions of her country and to ensure its security and strengthen its economy. And I assured her that all America wants the Philippines democracy to succeed and to prosper, and that we'll do what we can to help. Yun po yung sabi ni Mr. Ronald Reagan. Pero tumulong naman po talaga si President Ronald Reagan sa ating country, in our economy, in our security. But then, syempre naman po, kung tutulong ka, meron po itong kapalit. Pero sa Philippine economy naman po yun, mapupunta. So, ginawa po yung lahat ni President Cory Aquino para rin po sa atin at sa ating country. So, doon po, mapapansin niyo po noon yung mga investors, mga businessmen, which is mga po, yun nga po is mga Americans po, halos lahat po is yung mga Americans, yung mga ibang bansa po talaga. Pero sa ngayon pong habang lumalago na nga po ang ating economy, so ibang country na rin po ay pumapasok na rin po sa industriya natin. Dahil po doon, mas lalo pong lumalaki po yung ating economy. Mas lumalago po ito. Tulad ng mga Chinese, mga Koreans, Japanese, Spanish. So, anywhere in the part of the world na po, nag-invest at pupunta po sa Philippines. So, ang ating country naman po is nag-grow po siya. So, yun po, pinapaikot-ikot po ito ng ating mga government para po sa mga Pilipino din po. Tayo rin po mga Pilipino ang nag-benefits po nun. So, para din po sa ating mga Filipino po, ang ginawa po ni former President Cory Aquino. So, ngayon po, bagsak po ang ating ekonomiya ngayon dahil nga po sa pandemya. Pero, hindi naman po masasabi na forever na po ganito. Babangon at babangon po tayo kasi po, isa po tayong Pilipino.
Shalinda P. Limon. My title is Corazon Aquino. Cory was able to gain the trust of the people dahil pinagkaitan ang kanilang karapatan at kalayaan noong Marcos regime na nagresulta ito ng EDSA Power Revolution on February 22 to 25, 1986 and successfully ended Ferdinand Marcos 21 years, siya ay naghari.
So, ang report ko is Ninoy's assassination initiatives protest against the government. About dun sa speech ni Corazon Aquino. Ang pagpatay kay Ninoy ay siyang nagpasimula muli sa gobyerno ng halalan. Sinabi din ni Corazon Aquino na nakasalalay sa kanyang mga balikat ang tungkulin ng pagpatuloy ang paghain ng demokratikong alternatibo sa mga sambayanan. Subalit, unika din ni Arquinidad na dapat ipagtanggol ang demokrasya sa pamamagitan ng sandata kapag tinapatan ito ng sandata. Ngunit nakalimutan niya ito kung paano iyon ipapanalo. Ngunit naniniwala si Corazon sa ipinaglalaban ni Ninoy na dapat ipanalo iyon sa pamamaraan ng demokrasya. Naghintay din si Corazon ng makalahok noong halalang 1984 kahit alam niyang dadayain iyon. Nagbabalala rin ang mga abogado kay Corazon. Maaaring panganib, di baka dayain ang resulta. Ngunit sa kabila nun ay hinayaan ni Corazon ang mga sinabi ng mga abogado. Dahil naniniwala siya sa mga kataliguhan ng mga Filipino. Ipinaguyod si Corazon ng mga tao ng gobyerno. At ang natamo nila ay salamat na lang. At doon nalaman ni Corazon ang kanyang kapangyarihan. Ngunit dumaan ang araw, tawagan ng biglaang halalan. Sumang-ayon ang bayan. Nilukulok nila si Corazon na hamunin ang kalaban. At sinunod din ni Corazon ang mga minimithi nila. At doon nakamit ni Cory ang pagtitiwala ng mamayanan. Pinagkait sa kanilang karapatan. Kalayaan sa panahon ni Marcos na nagresulta sa EDSA People Power Revolution. At doon matagumpay na natapos ang Ferdinand Marcos noong February 22 to 25, 1986.
Good morning everyone, my name is Alyssa M. Patayan. Our report is content of Corazon Aquino's speech before the United Congress. The end of our speech were to declare the freedom of the Filipino from the Marcos regime upang markahan ng bagong simula para sa mga Pilipino mula sa Marcos regime, and to appeal for financial assistance by informing the Americans about the Philippine state.
Here's the continuation of the report from the other video of our group entitled Corazon Aquino's speech before the United States Congress on September 18, 1986. Alyssa Patayan reported about the freedom of Filipinos from Marcos regime. Since Dictator Marcos had been deposed in February, the Philippines was reckoning with everything his administration has inflicted. That included $26 billion in total of foreign debt. Foreign debt is a money borrowed by a government from other countries' government. Because of the debt left by the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos, the Philippines struggled from the democracy and economy. So President Corazon Aquino requesting financial aid from the other country to alleviate the economy of the Philippines. Cory Aquino said that we were just starting of a long road of recovery.